What's this? Nick Payne has joined the Big Finish bandwagon? Yes. So today I'm going to be talking about some free Big Finish audios that you can download for free from the Big Finish website in the Big Finish for free range. You get 4 Doctor Who's and 1 spin-off, full stories, free. The rest are behind the scenes, like talking about my regeneration, podcasts, extracts. You can get some free stories, but they're not Doctor Who, they're other series. If you're up for those, you can get them. But mostly it's behind the scenes, part 1s or episode 1s, or extracts of stories such as, and here I've got part 1s of Masters of Earth, The Rani Elite, The Vampire of the Mind, Iron Bright, and Destination... Yeah, The Destination Wars, which is the first story of the first Doctor Adventures. The ones we will be talking about are Last of the Titans, The Ratings War, No Place Like Home, Living Legend, and Unit the Coop, as seen here. We are going in release order from January 2001, January 2002, January 2003, November 2003, November 2004, I think this one was? Yeah, November 2004. Each of the Doctor Who ones have a story featuring each of the 4 Doctors they had during the main range at the time, which is 5, 6, 7, and 8. Plus you get Unit with the Brigadier. So that's cool. Okay, so let's start off with Last of the Titans, the first of these 3 audios, starring Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor. This story sees the Doctor arrive on a cargo ship with giant furnaces, where he meets Vilgraf, the captain and owner. Meanwhile, an Ormelian security operative named Stelpor has also come aboard to blow up the ship and kill Vilgraf. At first, Vilgraf seems to be a nice person, but in part 2, we hear the truth about him and why the Ormelian has been sent to kill him and blow up the ship. This episode is actually split into 2 parts. It's one episode of about 16 minutes, minus a second, and one episode of 18 minutes and 9 seconds. It's roughly the length of a usual Big Finish audio story, which is about 25 to 30 minutes minutes per episode. But this one's, well, altogether it's about 34 roughly. The other 3 Doctor Who ones are single-parters of 20 to 30 minutes each, as is the Unit the Coop. I want to mention that I love Nicholas Briggs as Vilgraf. He's probably the best actor in these audios, besides one I'll get to in a minute. He does a really great, deep voice for Vilgraf, and he has to do a Devon accent as well, as the character comes from Devon, sort of. So, yeah, I give him tons of props to him. He does some brilliant voices throughout in the audios and in the new series, as well as also the Adventure in Space and Time. Excuse me for the stuttering, I'm just talking quite quickly. I also want to give a shout out to Alistair Locke as Stelport, the Ormelian security agent, described as by the Doctor as a lizard creature in a way. And Locke does a really great performance. He kind of has this kind of a slimy, slippery kind of voice, but at the same time, a trustworthy one. Once he's, well, untrustworthy to begin with, but once you find out the truth, it does become a bit more trusting, and it's not a evil, slippery, slimy way, it's just one who's trying to get the job done. The Ormelian may be seen as the villain of the story at the end of the first episode when he's revealed, but in episode 2, the truth is revealed about Vilgraf, and why the Ormelian has come to kill him and blow up his spaceship, so you find out about that. And that is a really good twist, as I want to quickly say that Vilgraf was a great character in the first episode. He was such a lovable, warm, friendly, relatable, well, almost relatable character, and you could see him and the Doctor being very good friends. Part 2, on the other hand, takes what we expected in Part 1 and probably the first half of Part 2, actually, and then about the halfway point, or just before then, the story gets its head twisted and we find out what's really happened. I won't spoil it for you, but I will say that it is very clever, and it's a very good twist. It changed my perspective of the characters. So yeah, I hold this one in a very high regard for all of that, plus the fact that it's a good story. I mean, it's not a terrible amount of story, at least not to begin with, but it's serviceable. It works well for what it is and what it has to do, and I think it achieves it very well. So overall, I'm giving this story a 9 out of 10. Living Legend is a very good story. If you are not quite into Big Finish, then I suggest checking out this story to get a taste of the audio, how the audio's format works. Okay, on to the second story now, with The Ratings War, starring Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, and a villain from Doctor Who magazine strips, Beep the Meep. Beep is attempting to hypnotise the people of a planet to kill cute animals because he hates cute stuff, and raise an army to fight in his wars. Beep does try to use his cuteness as an advantage when threatened, but the Doctor isn't having any of that. Let's get something clear here. This is not a good story for children at all. Okay, teenagers and adults, let's take a look. First of all, Toby Longworth is fantastic as Beep the Meep. Oh god, there has not been so much of it. You know, as I was talking about Nicholas Briggs being fantastic as Vilgraff, Toby Longworth is probably the only other person besides the Doctors and Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier, of the supporting characters. Toby Longworth is probably the best as Beep the Meep. He is fantastic. He's so good. He's so good. It's uncanny. It's so good, and the story features him attempting to use his little cutie woodies to appear cute, so people don't know he's actually a really evil villain. Okay, doesn't laugh. Thankfully, we have the best Doctor of the 4 in the main range audios to combat such a devious villain. Colin Baker is brilliant in this story, but then again, Colin Baker is great in all of these, so that's not a surprise. But the fact that the Sixth Doctor's in this story is a great choice for facing a villain like Beep the Meep. I've heard that Beep's comic strip stories were with the 4th Doctor, maybe there was some with the 5th. But yeah, the fact that the 6th Doctor is facing Beep the Meep, that is so good. The story writes itself, basically, and I'm loving the story. The 6th Doctor is supposedly complaining about the output of the television studio at the moment, especially the reality TV programs they have at the moment, such as the one that's going on at that moment. And you do cut between there and back to see what's happening with the real world, and everyone's getting hyped out for almost nothing, I suppose, but it's done in a comedic way, and that is really good. And as I said, this is not suitable for children. There's a reason for that, and that's Beep's song, which I will point out is very annoying, but that's the point. It's supposed to be annoying. Beep made it annoying to convey his hypnotic message. I won't say it's completely terrible, it's alright, but it's also really annoying. If you play loop to loop, you probably get annoyed. It's a brilliant story with lots of great fun, lots of entertaining moments, and Toby Longworth just steals the show as Beep the Meep. I really want him to come back if he hasn't already. I know Toby Longworth is in another audio, The Maltese Penguin, and he's probably been in others, but I don't think any of those, at least to my knowledge, are Beep the Meep. I'll go and research the character later. But as for now, this particular story features a fantastic villain who is a great foil for the Doctor. Yeah, this was a brilliant story, so I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Wow, it's impressive. Oh, and stay tuned for some bloopers and extra Beep rant and the song in full after the Invaders of Mars Part 1 extract. The third one is No Place Like Home, starring Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor, with Caroline Morris as Big Finish companion Ehrman, first introduced in Eye of the Scorpion. First of all, I want to say that when I first heard this, I found Ehrman quite annoying to begin with, but gradually I came to like her, and I found her a lot better on the rewatch, as well as in Axis of Insanity. Similarly to how I found Bonnie Langford's performance in The Juggernauts, this is going to be a big surprise to you, especially you know me, but I found it nearly Oscar-worthy. Wow! It's a huge leap to when she played Mel in the 1980s. Anyway, the plot of this story is that the Doctor is taking Ehrman on a tour of the TARDIS, with references to past stories, when the TARDIS is taken under the control of a mysterious villain. The twist of whom is taking control of the TARDIS in this audio will have you laughing out loud. It is incredibly funny. It is such a good twist. It's so good. It's not... Is it as good as the Living Legend one? I would say maybe even better. I won't say who it is, or what it is rather, because it is such a good twist, I'm not going to tell you. It's so good, it's so really good. But I will tell you that it speaks, and it's Mark Donovan who voices him, as well as also the only other character besides the Doctor and Ehrman. There's two other characters, that's the villain and also a character called Shade. And Mark Donovan voices both characters, and he does a really good job. The villain, he does a job, it's typical, no, not wrong one. Kind of evil, maybe it's slightly squeaky, but it's not quite soft, it's kind of a little high-pitched, but it's typical villainy, whilst Shade is a bit more quiet, soft-spoken kind of character, a bit like a robot, but not a robot because he's not a robot. But, you know, just soft voice, that's all. On the rewatch, I loved the Fifth Doctor and Ehrman's interactions with each other. It's this and Axis of Insanity. It's actually making me want to get the Ehrman stories, as well as the fact there may be some sort of plot to do with them. So that's good. I might try and get the Ehrman ones in the future as well. There's quite a few I want to tick off my list. But definitely really want to get the Ehrman stories now, and I actually like her a lot more than I did first viewing on this one. I think Axis of Insanity was a big help for that, especially parts 3 and 4. Overall, No Place Like Home is a brilliant story, and it's a great TARDIS set story. 9 out of 10. Such a great episode, and there was a lot of jokes, there's a lot of references to the past, like the Fourth Doctor's scarf, the Third Doctor's coat, Freddie's shirts, Victoria's dress, and they also mentioned Sarah Jane once wore that, and there was something for leaders, and I think they might mention something from Eye of the Scorpion. I haven't heard that one yet, but I presume it's that or another story that may have taken place in between. The fourth and final Doctor Who audio is Living Legend, starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor and India Fisher as Charlie Pollard. One thing to note here is that only Big Finish companions are appearing in these stories. With No Place Like Home, we've got Ehrman, but no Perry, and of course Charlie in this one. But there is no companions from the TV show, like I said, no Perry, there is no Ace or Mel or anyone in the 7th Doctor one, there's no Perry or Mel again in the 6th Doctor one. 5th Doctor, like I said, Perry will be travelling with them at the time, but she's off doing something else by the sounds of it. And 8, he's got a variety of companions across all mediums. Really, the only reoccurring actor from the show, besides the 4 Doctors, is Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart in Unit the Coop, which we'll get onto next. So, yeah, that's one thing to note. Anyway, the plot is that 2 aliens of the Frelip race called Vangor and Fawn have arrived on Earth in Italy in 1982, about the time when they were celebrating winning the 1982 World Cup. Vangor and Fawn are surveying the planet in order for an invasion, so the Doctor and Charlie must stop them. Charlie poses as a time lady, and the Doctor her idiot and bumbling assistant to stop them. There are good performances, and it's a lot of fun and an interesting story. However, I don't think it's on the same level as the previous 3 stories. I think it's good, it's funny, it's entertaining, it's got some good stuff. But overall, it's okay. It is interesting. It's just it's not amazing. It doesn't have as many twists and turns or enjoyable acting moments. I like the guys voicing Vangor and Fawn. And, of course, Paul McGann and India Fisher are great as well. But I don't think the performances on this one stand out as much as the previous 3 episodes had. Nor do I think the story is as good or funny or as interesting as the previous 3. I think there was something in the previous 3 that just felt so good with their ones, whilst this one, it tries, it does it well, but I don't think it can hold as much of a candle to the other 3. Especially Ratings War, which is an even bigger candle than the other 2. But yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I just don't think Living Legend is as good as the other 3 I've mentioned. Considering it's the last one, it's a slight disappointment. As, well, okay, it's not terrible, but I wouldn't classify it as amazing like the other 3. I think it's just really good. Very good even. Overall, I'd say it's a good story, but it's not going to be one I'll be rushing back to. I mean, I think if I was to rush back to A3 Big Finish audio, it would be Ratings War or Living Legend or No Place Like Home. But I wouldn't really rush back to this one unless I wanted something a little shorter. This is the shortest one by a smidge compared to the Coupe. To be honest, I think most of the disc, when it was on CD, was taken up by the Making of Zagreus bonus. But overall, it's okay, it's good, it'll do, it's fun, it's entertaining, but it's not as good as the other ones. 8 out of 10. Finally, we have the unit story, The Coupe. Nicholas Courtney returns as Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. This serves as a pilot to the classic Unit audio series, not to be confused with the current Unit, the new series audios. The story for this one is that the Brigadier is called to hold a press meeting for a new merge of Unit and its organisation called ISIS, not to be confused with the terrorist organisation of the same name, though they are no less scary. And there seems to be some sort of conspiracy that seems to be sabotaging a handover, and the blame seems to be pointing at the Silurians. But is it the Silurians? What is the truth? Okay, this one's probably the weakest of the 5. Positives first. Nicholas Courtney is fantastic, again, as the Brigadier. I really like the character of Colonel Emily Chordsbury, played by Siri O'Neill, and she becomes a main character in the audios. I think in the second and third ones, she is the main character, and I think in the first and fourth ones she is, but Nick Courtney gets the higher billing. He might be a guest character in those. She's definitely the main character across the series, minus the Brigadier in the first and fourth ones. She's a great character, and the actress does a really great job. The Silurians are used really well in this story, and I like how instead of being villainous, they're the good guys. They're the nice ones in this one, or at least the one we see. They want to form a treaty, a pact, if you will, with Earth. And negatives now. The story's not really that amazing. I mean, besides the fact that it's not the Doctor Who the Silurians redone, the build-up to it isn't the most interesting, and there isn't really an amazing supporting cast besides Chadbury, and there's some filler scenes that are supposed to show off ISIS as the organisation, but it's sort of filler, and there isn't a huge amount of motivation besides, ooh, the Silurians are monsters! Ooh! Yeah, I don't buy it. It's pretty slow paced, considering this is 23 minutes, slightly longer than Living Legend. It's actually a bit of a drag to start with. I mean, after the action scenes and the Brigadier's on his way, you get the helicopter fight, but the pacing is feeling slow. Also, who wanted to assassinate the Brigadier if it turned out not to be the Silurians? Did someone just want to get rid of him, or the Colonel? Not Chadbury, another one. Not a Colonel, Captain. But, I don't know. I don't like ISIS. This is more of a personal thing rather than a problem with the story. ISIS are acting a bit like your really secret police or intelligence force who will claim you to be the bad guy even though you've not really done anything wrong. There's a couple of scenes where they have this journalist kind of arrested just for doing his job, basically, and they're like, sign this form to say you're a security risk. Even though he was doing his job. He was reporting on an event that was happening. That's his job. And he's like, oh, I have to use force if you try to escape or anything. And then, later on, this is this character, Sergeant Knight or something, I'm not sure, but then, a later scene, when the journalist is refusing to sign, the sergeant then goes over, says, you know, like I said, I will be forced to defend myself if you try to do anything, which he wasn't doing, and then the soldier breaks him. He cracks some bones. He makes sure that the hand, whichever one he's using to write, is left okay so he can sign. But he basically snaps some bones. At least that's what it sounds like. Oh my god. It's no wonder that the reporter then goes to Chadbury and reports an assault. That was brutal. The only good thing is that he got suspended afterwards when Chadbury found out. Overall, this story is okay, but I think it's quite weak. And yeah, I'm not such a big fan of the characters or the situation. The only two characters I liked, besides the Brigadier, of course, were Chadbury and the Silurian. So that's 3 characters I liked then. But yeah, for ISIS were too nasty for their own good, and they're pretty much dicks, more or less. There's also a slow pacing. It's got some moments where it's not terribly interesting, and yeah, I can find some people just not liking this one. I know Matt isn't a fan of this story. So yeah, for a okay final audio, it's a 7 out of 10. Yeah, and it's also only an okay pilot to the Unit series, which are actually quite cheap to download if you wanted to get those. I mean, I might get them on a later date. So overall, if you want to get some Big Finish stuff, but you don't want to spend any or much money, then I do recommend the free Big Finish audios to get your teeth into. You can find them in the Big Finish for free range, which will be appearing now. There you go. On a plus side, if you got the original CDs, some of them came out with extras. The Ravens War comes with Invaders from Mars Part 1, No Place Like Home has Dalek War Chapter 1. I think that's the first of the second series of the Dalek Empire audios. Yeah, it's series 2. And Living Legend has the making of Zagreus, and like I said, I think that takes up more of the disc. If you have Last of the Titans on CD, you'll also have Storm Warning Part 1 with that. However, the download doesn't include that. And on a similar fashion, The Coop also includes a Bernice Summerfield story, Silver Lining, which featured her going up against the Cybermen. That was tracks 14 to 21, according to the thing, with coming soon as tracks 22 and 23. And Unit was the first 13. However, the 7/8 track Silver Lining is not included with Unit the Coop, and you cannot get that individually. I checked, I can't find it on the Big Finish website. So there you go, that's all 5 free Big Finish Doctor Who and Unit stories that you can purchase, well, I say purchase, for free on the Big Finish website. Go down to the Big Finish for free range and just click purchase. They're free, so you don't have to put in your details. You have to do that for the ones you do have to pay. But for the free ones, click purchase, click buy in the basket, boom. You got them. You just have to wait for them to be downloaded, and then if you have the app, which is it's a really great app, by the way, let's go to purchased and click on the download symbol on the side. And there you go. Bob's your uncle. Unless Bob isn't your uncle. But Nick, what about proper Big Finish? What about the main range and the other ones you can buy? This isn't quite that. So what about the ones you have to buy? The proper ones. Okay, first of all, this is proper Big Finish. It's on their website and everything. They release CDs and all that. Second, my next review, not necessarily the next video, but the next review I shall do, Series 11 depending, will be the Mutant Phase and how it compares to this. The Mutant Phase Edited Edition that came free with an issue of Doctor Who Adventures in 2009. So, yeah, that's it from me. Thank you for watching this video, and I shall see you guys next time. Goodbye.